Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to this video in which I'm going to talk about Abu Dis, which is touted to be the future of the capital of Palestine. Once Palestine is recognized on God's land of Israel, that's the breaking of the everlasting covenant. I think I've made that pretty clear for anybody who's watched these videos. So I'm just going to go over what's being said, what I've found through some research, and all about Abu Dis. First of all, I'm going to start off with an interview by Moshe Feiglin. Moshe is involved as a politician, and he's been a part of 19 Knessets, so that's 19 years in the Knesset. He was part of the Likud party, which is the party that Netanyahu heads up, and he knows what's going on the ground. We can be sure that he's well aware. He's actually against the recognition of a Palestinian state. He says that it's the dividing of the land of Israel. And as I'll show you, there are different factions in Israel which are saying that it's not the dividing of Israel, and he is saying that it absolutely is the dividing of Israel. So an interview which he gave very recently, this is an article dated June the 7th, and I'll just skip to the most important part where he talks about Abu Dis. He says, the right as a whole, the greater right victory in the elections, the larger the whole. When Begin swept to victory in 1978, he went on to withdraw from Sinai and destroy all the settlements there. When Sharon triumphed over Ehud Barak, we got the destruction of Gush Katif. Now Netanyahu is stronger than ever, and what is coming up over the horizon? The division of Jerusalem. Netanyahu and Elkin is the mayor of Jerusalem. He's working up a plan which divides Jerusalem in order to fit in with Donald Trump's plan. Netanyahu and Elkin are already talking about it. We will have the US embassy in southern Jerusalem, and another US embassy will be opened in Abu Dis. This is the gaping hole that we are about to get from the right. So as you can see, he's very clear. There's no doubt about what he says is about to happen. And if anybody knows, it's this man, because he's involved in Israeli politics. A little bit more about Abu Dis and the things which have been happening. You can see Elkin's East Jerusalem plan invites terror to the capital. Elkin is the mayor of Jerusalem, and he is the one who's planning this. This plan was set to bring more governance to the area, a thing that is lacking now, and to stop the massive flow of illegal infiltration into Jerusalem. That's what Elkin is saying. But this is in order to fit in with recognizing a Palestinian state. You can see Abu Dis is just on the other side of the border wall. And what they will basically do is officially recognize Palestine on the land of Israel. And despite the fact that it's behind the border wall, it's still on the land of Israel. It's still on God's land, and it still divides Jerusalem. But what they want to say, and this is the nature of mankind, always trying to wiggle his way into the semantics of what God said and what He told us not to do, and try and push it as far as we possibly can. This goes back to the Garden of Eden. This is what mankind does. But I can tell you now that once they have recognized a Palestinian state anywhere in Israel, even if it were to be in Ramallah, that is not the West Bank. It's Israel, and God will consider that as the dividing of His land. So in an interview with Jerusalem Post on Monday, Leon said that he opposes the plan which was put forward by the Jerusalem Affairs Minister, Neev Elkin. So this is a plan. If you have a look at the actual plan, this is a plan that this goes back to November last year. There was this huge uproar about them beginning to change the borders of Jerusalem, and this is in order to separate the Palestinians and the East Jerusalem from West Jerusalem, because what they're concerned about in their very short-sighted view is that the Jewish population and the Palestinian population living very closely to each other would cause offspring that would then be mixed, and they would be part of Jerusalem. So they would have a Jerusalem or an Israeli ID card. So the children of these mixed relationships would then be part of Jerusalem, and they're very concerned about numbers because obviously numbers and democracy go hand in hand together. So you can see that this, I'll put all these links in the information below, but you can see that this is, a plan to separate East Jerusalem neighborhoods located beyond the security barrier has gained steam and moved from the legislative phase to the planning phase. Jerusalem Affairs Minister Ze'ev Elkin told the Jerusalem Post on Wednesday. So this is already past the legislate. This is now in planning. They're planning to do this. After advancing the amendment to Basic Law, Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, which made it harder to transfer parts of Jerusalem to Palestinian Authority on the one hand and opened the door to changes of municipal borders on the other, Elkin said he started initiating steps needed to implement the plan. So here you can see this is the border wall, and these are what's changing. So where you see these red parts there, this is what it was before, and this is what it's going to be after. So the right hand side will be part of the Palestinian state, and the left hand side will be part of Jerusalem. So they're sort of segregating where they need to in order to have this contiguous Palestinian state in East Jerusalem. This is also a very recent article published June the 10th. The United Arab Emirates is attempting to buy property in occupied East Jerusalem. The United Arab Emirates, that's the new Saudi king, allegedly tried to buy a property in occupied East Jerusalem close to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, a Palestinian cleric has warned. The deputy head of the Islamic movement in Israel made the comments on Wednesday in a statement, and you can see that they are offering huge sums of money. The businessman offered the Jerusalem local $5 million for a house next to Al-Aqsa. After he declined, the offer price was raised to $20 million. So the Abu Dis, it says Khatib suggested to the UAE is doing so as part of the scheme agreed with Israel as pressure is exerted on the Palestinians to accept a deal on Jerusalem that would include accepting to relocate their capital to Abu Dis, the east of the city. Here's another article, analysis, changing Saudi's attitude towards Israel. This was on June the 5th. And in this article we can see it says the Palestinian mini-state would not have East Jerusalem as its capital, but Abu Dis, according to the media reports, while Israel would retain security control over the Jordan Valley. You see, this article seems to suggest that Abu Dis is not East Jerusalem, but in actual fact it is East Jerusalem. So it's very much on the cards. What's happening is well known, and the plan is progressing ahead in order to recognize a Palestinian state on God's land. And guys, I'm well aware that there are certain preachers out there which are saying that Abu Dis is not part of Jerusalem. These are foolish words, and they shouldn't be said by these people. Are we really going to reduce God's word and his land, Israel, down to semantics? Because it's 1.5 kilometers away from Jerusalem, that's going to be okay with God. God is incompatible with sin. He cannot accept a lie called Palestine on his land. The idea that it's okay to recognize Abu Dis or a Palestinian state anywhere on God's land is ludicrous. So any preacher, it doesn't matter how many followers these preachers have got, any preacher who says that it's okay to recognize a Palestinian state anywhere in God's land doesn't take God's word very seriously. Recognizing a Palestinian state on God's land is the breaking of the everlasting covenant. God made a promise to Abraham 3,000 years ago, and he keeps his promises. And anybody who comes along and breaks God's promises is going to have a thing coming to them. So let us not be fooled. Abu Dis is East Jerusalem. Abu Dis is on God's land of Israel, and Abu Dis being recognized as a Palestinian state is the breaking of the everlasting covenant. Here we can see quite clearly, Wikipedia says Abu Dis is a Palestinian village in the Jerusalem Governorate of the Palestinian National Authority. Okay, the Jerusalem Governorate is one of 16 governorates of Palestine and located in the central part of West Bank. The governorate has two sub-districts, Jerusalem J1, which includes the localities within the territory controlled by the Israeli Jerusalem municipality, that's East Jerusalem, okay, that's where, here you can see East Jerusalem, that's where Abu Dis is, and Jerusalem J2, which includes the remaining parts of the Jerusalem governorate. The district capital of the governorate is East Jerusalem, Al-Quds. So Abu Dis is very much part of East Jerusalem. Let's not get confused about the semantics. And here is one from last year, December the 6th. Saudi offers Abu Dis as future capital of Palestine. This is the new Mohammed bin Salman, who is very much involved with Jared Kushner in this deal. Jared Kushner and Jason Greenblatt are going to go and meet with him and the Egyptians next week, and they're going to discuss this further. So a proposal for peace initiatives between Israelis and Palestinians offered the village of Abu Dis as the future capital of Palestine instead of East Jerusalem. And Abu Dis is a Palestinian town near occupied East Jerusalem. According to the Oslo Accords, it is classified as Area B, which is administered by both Israel and the Palestinian Authority. And here on May the 23rd of this year, a tour of Abu Dis, the proposed capital of a future Palestinian state. Since December of last year, there have been rumors that Abu Dis plan was back in the cards. So the return of Abu Dis to the center of discussions about the proposed capital of a Palestinian state conjures up memories of the 1990s. Back in 1996, construction began of a massive 1,717 square meters building just outside of Jerusalem that was supposed to be the Palestinian Legislative Council. So here is Abu Dis, here's the security fence wall, and right here is the Mount of Olives. This is East Jerusalem. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. There was even a large window for Yasser Arafat that he wanted to look out over Jerusalem, over Abu Dis. So this guys, it's in the plans. This is going to be the capital of a future Palestinian state recognized on God's land. So this is the compound which they built, which is now dilapidated, but this is probably going to be renovated and fixed up in order to house the future of the capital of Palestine. Here's Jerusalem, the wall, the Jerusalem line, and Abu Dis, it's just a suburb in East Jerusalem. I also found this very interesting article. This is Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs, Israeli Security, Regional Diplomacy and International Law. This is by Yoni Ben Menachem. I'll leave a link to this as well. What I found very interesting is it says that the village of Abu Dis is 1.5 kilometers as the crow flies from Al-Aqsa Mosque. 2 weeks ago, Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh claimed he had learned that in President Trump's new plan, an overhead bridge would be built from Abu Dis to Al-Aqsa so that Muslims could come freely to pray at the mosques on the Temple Mount. Abu Dis is the point that connects the northern and southern West Bank. It is also the eastern entrance to Jerusalem, and in the other direction it leads down to the Jordan Valley. According to the Oslo agreements, it is part of Area B, which is under Israeli security and Palestinian control. Already in 1996, construction began in Abu Dis for the parliamentary building of the Palestinian Legislative Council. In other words, the Palestinians did not always oppose the notion of Abu Dis serving, at least temporarily, as the capital of the Palestinian state. 1/3 of the building was constructed on land within the municipal boundaries of Jerusalem, which I find that's very, very interesting. So 1/3 of it was built within the municipal boundaries. So technically speaking, if you want to be technical, it's in Jerusalem. We also know that Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has basically told the Palestinians to make a deal or shut up, and he has massive influence in the Palestinian Authority because obviously they fund the Palestinian Authority and they receive a lot of money from the Saudis. So I'll leave all of this in the information. You can go through it, and I hope you enjoyed.